Everybody, it's Matt Scudero with the Credit Research Foundation. Welcome to our micro learning sessions. I'm super excited to have Sam Fensterstock with us. Sam is with AGA. AGA is a platinum partner of CRF and a long-term platinum partner of CRF. And we're truly grateful for all that they do for the foundation, as well as for the discipline. Sam's been nice enough to spend some time with us to do a three-part series on working with an agency. We're excited to talk about what to look for in an agency, how to maximize your performance with an agency, and how to measure and evaluate your results. So 3 micro learning sessions. I think you'll find them educational and certainly enjoyable as well. So Sam, great to be with you. And thank you for sharing time with us. I know your calendar's busy all the time, and really appreciate you spending some time with us. If it's okay with you, we're going to jump right into it, and got a bunch of questions for you. And the first micro learning session is, again, what to look for in an agency. So Sam, there are a lot of agencies that are out in the marketplace, and it can be difficult for folks to focus in on why it's important. And so really the first question is why should someone think about engaging in a third-party agency?
Well, Matt, it's a great question. The first one that typically people ask. And, one of the things that, is good to see already is that probably about 80% of the companies that we call upon are already using the collection agency. So there is widespread usage, companies already see the value. But if you had to tell somebody who's not using an agency, and, we do speak to companies that don't use collection agencies, you ask the question, why aren't you using one? And they like to say, we do it internally. And I say, well, what do you do when you exhaust all your efforts? Like when you hit your brick wall, what do? You just write it off and move on? A lot of them say yes. And I don't understand that in a lot of ways, because really what an agency does, it acts as an extension of your credit and collection department and gives you another, another area, a way to potentially get back some of your money. If you think about it, if you've exhausted all your efforts and now you're able to give it to somebody else and they're able to potentially recover for you, there's no downside risk, because if they don't recover it for you, it's all contingency based. So, if they're successful and they collect, they're collecting and they're going to take their fee out of the money they recovered for you. So it's not coming out of, the company's pocket. There's no capital expenditure. So, my mindset is, why wouldn't you want to take that last possible step to potentially recover your money? Better to have back some percentage of your money, even paying a fee, than none of your money. So, in my mind, you have another area of recourse that you don't have if you just say, no, we're going to exhaust our efforts and then do nothing with it. So that's the first reason why I think someone should use an agency. But the second reason is a lot of times the reason companies don't collect their money is because of the fact that once an account becomes a certain age past due, the level of effort that an internal collection department has on that company typically dwindles. As the account becomes older, there's less touches being made on that customer, because your collectors are going after the low-hanging fruit, which is the accounts that are 5 days delinquent, 10 days delinquent. This account that's 180 days delinquent, they've already touched many, many times and been unsuccessful. And many times what happens with companies that don't use an agency, right? Those accounts have literally no potential to be recovered at all, because of the fact that they're old and they're not being addressed. Typically, if you go to a collection agency, what an agency is going to do is, in a very short period of time, really concentrate on collecting that receivable. 10 to 15 attempts to reach them in a 30 to 40 day period of time. A level of activity on that account that your internal collector is probably never ever going to do to an account that's 180 days or more past due. So if you really think about it, a lot of times the reason a collection agency is successful is because we can focus on those accounts that your collectors have already focused on months ago, and now they can't do it. You don't have the resources. And so once again, going back to the question, why should you use an agency? Those are all great reasons, because at the end of the day, if an agency doesn't collect the money, you have no cost. So why wouldn't you take every step possible to recover, a delinquent receivable?
Boy, lots of takeaways in that one small piece of commentary. Boil it down. Opportunity to maximize your portfolio. And it sounds like activities on a contingency basis, so there's no financial loss to go forward with it.
It's funny, Matt. I was talking to a company recently, and they're trying. There's a big Fortune 500 company. They've never used a collection agency before, and they've agreed that they want to use one. They've gone through the whole process, and now they're trying to convince the senior management to do this. And they're trying to create a capital expenditure for it. They're trying to figure out how much money they're going to spend, in fees in the year. And I'm talking to the director, and I'm like, what does it matter? I'm like, if you think about it, any fee that you're going to pay us is from money that we recovered from you. So you're paying us with the money that we're recovering. It's not coming out of a budget. Yes, you may have to budget it from the standpoint of, it's getting paid, right? So there's obviously, you're going to pay, you're going to issue, it's going to be filed with taxes and things like that. But if you think about it, there is no capital expenditure. It's not like you're buying a piece of software and you've got to do an ROI for X amount of money. The ROI for a collection agency is their success. It's pretty straightforward.
It's all upside potential. Great. Yeah, that leads us into the next question. And from a credit professional standpoint, they get exposure to a lot of activity, a lot of agencies out there. And how would you recommend that somebody approach, choosing an agency, and how do they start in identifying candidates for them?
Yeah. Well, Matt, before I joined AGA, I hadn't been in the collection business for 20 years, and I was friends with a whole lot of, people like AGA from my previous, employers, because I was always in the credit collection industry. And what I always found is that the best agencies, the first thing is that they have certification, and there's really two, associations that AGA is part of that we, think are important. So if you're going to use an agency, number one is the Commercial Collection Agencies of America. That's who we're certified by. All of our collectors get certified by them within 90 days. And the reason you want to use an agency that has that certification is that it's like I say, it's like the bar association for the collection agency industry. If as a creditor, if your agency doesn't remit to you, right? If they're not certified, well, you have no recourse, right? If they're certified, there's a recourse. We have a bond, insurance bond that's held with the CCAA. And so I would first by saying is that you shouldn't use a collection agency in my mind that doesn't have the certification. And there's also the International Association of Commercial Collectors. There's 200 US agencies that have been certified by them. We're one of those 200 agencies. So number one, certification. Number two, obviously, you want to find agencies that are reputable, Better Business, A+ certification or rating by the Better Business Bureau. Obviously, having this relationships with associations like the CRF, things of that nature. You want to find an agency that is going to represent your brand in the right manner. And that's a big thing we hear, in the marketplace is that, so many companies are just really conscious of their brand. And what happens if you use an agency that doesn't represent your brand in the right way, then you may damage your business. And so the agencies that are certified by these associations typically have gone through a level of screening, and obviously the certification process that that you're working with somebody that's reputable, that has a code of ethics, and has a bond, an insurance bond that protects you as a company. That would be the first thing that I would look at. Second thing, obviously, I don't think that having a specific industry focus is 100% necessary. Sometimes they'll say, well, do you do business in this area? Well, if you work with an agency that has a really wide breadth of experience, you're typically better off than using an agency that just focuses in one specific area, because that agency may only have experience in that one area. So let's say, just for example, you're in the transportation industry. You may think it's best to find an agency that just focuses in transportation. I don't know if that's necessarily the greatest thing, because an agency that just focuses in transportation has very limited experience, whereas an agency that focuses in transportation but also works in many different areas, they may have multiple creditors that are dealing with that transportation business that come from outside the transportation industry, that if they only dealt in transportation, they would just have that. So I like to look for wide breadth of experience. Before I joined AGA, I would recommend agencies all the time. And that would be one of the things, wide breadth of experience. And so those are some of the things I would look at. Obviously, going to the associations, going to see, who are members of the CRF and things like that. That's usually a good starting point. But obviously you got to dig below the hood after you get there and try to find the one that, has the right value for you and the things that you're looking for, as a partner.
Two great points, right? Certification, so important. I appreciate you sharing that with everybody. And then the experience of the firm, right? Not, and that goes across many fronts, not just one industry.
There's 4,000 B2B collection agencies, I think, in the United States. In certain states, you don't have to be licensed, bonded, or insured. That's another thing you would look for. Do they have licensing? Are they bonded? Are they insured? In all states that require it. Now, certain states don't require any of that. Like you can just, in certain states, you can, open up an office in your home, call yourself a collection agency, and you're in business. But obviously, you want to have, you want to do business with someone who has all the right certifications. Once again, the insurance piece is really important. You want to make sure that they have the right coverage for insurance. They're bonded. And then other things are, what are important to you in an agency. At AGA, when we focus at our company, it's sharper skills, higher standards, and smarter systems. And these are things that we call our pillars because we think at an agency, you got to have really good people. Like the number one most important thing at a collection agency is the quality of the collector making the phone call. If you think about it, Matt, even in a company, that collector internally, if he doesn't make have a good phone call, he's not going to collect his company's money. Same thing with at a collection agency. The collector is the number one most important person. So you want to make sure that the collectors have been certified. AJ, has all of our collectors. You want to know what the ratio of how many collectors they have and what percentage of them are certified, by the CCAA. So they've gone through the right training. Then obviously, does the collection agency adhere to very rigorous efficacies as far as the standards they set for what their collectors say? Do they have a cadence process where, their follow-up procedure, is something that is in line with what you would want from a collection agency? Do they have really good reporting? I mean, reporting lately has become really, really big in our industry. AGA, that's one of the things that we think is our strength is reporting. If you're a company that's placing, 20, 30 files a week, even a month. I mean, if you think about it, the more placements you have, the more reporting you need. Do you have access to great reporting at your fingertips? Can you find out what you want as far as payments and remittances? Can you have access to notes? Can you do recovery analytics? Can you build custom reports? I mean, everything depends upon what your needs are. So if you're saying, okay, how do I start this process? Well, what is important to you? I ask a question all the time to credit managers that I'm soliciting is, if your current agency shut down today, what would you look for in a partner, in a replacement? It normally comes down to three things. They want somebody who has really good results. They want somebody who has really good reporting. And they want somebody who's going to represent their brand the right way. Those are really the three things. And so if you're out there trying to find a partner, those are the things that we normally look for. Do they do a good job? Do they represent your company in the right manner? Do they have really good analytics to help you really dig into, their performance? Because if you really think about it, Matt, at a collection agency, performance is the number one driver of everything. You typically, you don't lose a customer if you're doing a good job as a collection agency, and you make more money if you collect more money. And the collection agencies, we are all contingency based. We don't get paid unless we're successful. We all want to be successful, probably even more than our clients want us to be successful, because if we don't get them paid, we don't make any money, and we don't like working for free. All of us, my colleagues, I have a lot of competitors that I'm friends with, and we all look at it the same way. If we're not successful, we're not making money, and we want to be successful. So, I like to think that if you're out there shopping around for an agency, and on the surface, many of us look the same, but when you dig below, you'll see variances in difference in staffing, the quality of the collector, how many collectors does the agency have? Because if you think about it, if a collection agency doesn't have a collection staff that can support the number of placements they have coming in the door, it's all on a ratio of how many calls can a collector make in a day. Well, if the agency you're talking to, each collector, say, manages 1,000 accounts, right? Well, it takes them a certain amount of time to get through those 1,000 accounts. But if you're talking to an agency that has, say, 500 accounts to a collector versus 1,000 accounts to a collector, well, the agency that has 500, they're going to be able to make more contact attempts in a shorter period of time on those 500 than one that has 1,000. So I always would ask, what's the ratio of accounts to collector in your organization? Because that's going to have a big impact on the type of cadence that the agency can employ in order to successfully collect your money. So it's another thing that I think is important.
Boy, Sam, great checklist to go through. So just to recap some of that, if I'm thinking about an agency and I need to talk internally with my my company about it, right? I'm selling it to my senior management. These are great points that people should be able to walk through. And you hit the three pillars, right? It's people, process, and technology. And I just want to run through a few points that I heard and make sure that those that are listening to this micro learning session are going to capture as well. It's about having the right ethics, being certified, it's training of the staff and quality of the staff, it's the technology that they use, it's the cadence of communication, it's the reporting that they can provide, and it's the metrics that they can provide. And that's a two-way street. And we're going to hit metrics on our third micro learning session. I'm excited about talking on that specific topic. This is great, right? How do you start the process? I think you just walked through a whole bunch of steps for us, and I'm super excited. Do you have any other comments for closing out on this one?
No, listen, I think that, the good thing about selection of a collection agency is that we're not shy. So most companies have been solicited by us repeatedly over and over and over again. And most people probably have a list of agencies that they can go to. But once again, I think that, one of the things I also would throw out there is that, rate or fee shouldn't drive a decision, right? This industry over the last 20 years has been squeezed when it comes to rates, because there have been a lot of agencies out there that have come in with very low fees in order to try to win business, right? And one of the things I always tell my salespeople, that if the first thing out of a prospect's mouth is, what do you charge? And that's going to be the primary driver of their decision, then they might not be the right customer for us. Because what I normally say is that you're looking for a partner first, and the fee shouldn't drive a partner. When I talk to companies all the time, I say, listen, if AGA is the right partner for you, then we'll agree upon a fee that we can both live with. We know it's a negotiated thing in our industry. We have published rates, and then we have what we have to agree to in order to get the business. But what I normally say to people, if the fee is the number one thing, then you're probably going to be disappointed with the result, because sometimes getting the best fee doesn't mean you're going to get the best result. Collection agencies, the collectors are paid commissions, and when fees go down, the commissions go down, and that changes, attitude, in what to focus on. And not saying, at AGA, our collectors don't know what our clients pay us as far as fee goes, but a lot of agencies, their collectors fee, their commission is based on the fee and based on revenue. We pay our collectors based on the gross dollars they collect, not based on fee. A lot of agencies do. And so once again, if fee is your primary driver, you may not wind up with the best partner for you.
Certainly understood. All great information for folks. So I think at this point we're gonna end this micro learning session. Going to move into first of all a thank you for those who listened. Thank you for your time, Sam. I'm excited to talk about our next session, which we're going to get into, which is how to maximize performance. And Sam, as you always mention to the CRF staff, if anybody has questions, I know you're open to answering those, folks to reach out to you, and you'll be able to help guide them across the whole discipline. So other than that, any closing comments from your side?
No, I appreciate you inviting me to have this conversation, Matt. I hope it's helpful to the audience.
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.